Hello everyone, this is Chris Bartlett, pastor of Boaz Church of God. It is a great privilege to come to you today and share some devotional thoughts with you. I wanted to read from Psalm 112. If you get time after this devotional to go and read that whole psalm, I encourage you to do so. It's very encouraging. So I'm going to take just a few minutes to read a couple of verses and share some thoughts that might be helpful. Psalm 112:1 says, "Happy is the man or person who fears the Lord, taking great delight in his commands." There's 5 blessings in this psalm that are connected to a person fearing the Lord. But the first thing I want you to see is that the fear of the Lord and delighting in his commands are married together. You cannot say that you fear the Lord and don't delight in his commands. You're really not fearing the Lord. If you do delight in his commands, you are in fact, in fear of the Lord and reverencing him. But I want to read these 5 blessings to you. Verse 2 says this about a person who fears the Lord and delights in his commands. Listen to this. His descendants will be powerful in the land. That tells us that a person who lives a life of delighting in the commands of God will have a posterity that's powerful and that walks in righteousness. That means your legacy, your children and your grandchildren will in fact walk in the way of the Lord and will have influence in the land. I know for everybody that's not an exciting prospect, but for many it is, especially you who have children. And that's one of the blessings. Number 2, verse 3 says, "Wealth and riches are in his house." This is the person who fears the Lord and delights in his commands. Wealth and riches are in his house. Don't misconstrue that. That does not mean that if you fear the Lord, you're going to get rich. What it does mean is that you have permission to attain wealth when you fear the Lord and delight in his commands, because you will not set your heart on riches. That means you are qualified to receive wealth because you won't make wealth an idol. So it's a wonderful blessing for a person who walks in the fear of the Lord and obeying his commands. Places for all the upright. So the person who fears the Lord and takes delight in his commands will always have a path, will always see. In times like this, in times of deception and great blindness, the person who fears the Lord will see the right way to go and walk in it. Number 4, it says, "Good will come to the one who lends generously and conducts his business fairly." Isn't that good? To him who fears the Lord and delights in his commands, that means greed and stinginess will not take root in your heart, and you will always be generous, and generosity begets more generosity. That means you will be the recipient of generosity, not just the participant of generosity. Such a good promise. And finally, number 5, he will not fear bad news. He will not fear bad news because his heart is confident, because he trusts in the Lord. I wrote this note: obsessive desire for control is a symptom of fear, and fear is a symptom of not trusting God, or rather trusting anything other than God. So the fear of the Lord eradicates fear because you can trust in God, not your success, not your abilities, not your capabilities, or even your education. And I think that's a great promise. And I'm going to connect the first verse with the last verse, and I'm going to be finished. "Happy is the person who fears the Lord, taking great delight in his commands. He will not fear bad news. His heart is confident, trusting in the Lord." So I encourage you today to fear the Lord. Put your trust in God, no matter if you're on the mountain or in the valley, no matter if you're in understanding or you're not in understanding. The fear of the Lord is confidence, and your heart will not fear bad news. Thank you.